Hey friend, I'm happy you're here. Today we're going to talk about the three biggest mistakes that coaches, therapists, healers make. And there's more than three, but these are the three big mistakes that so many mistakes go underneath these three umbrella of mistakes, if you will. And I would love to hear from you if you could relate to any of these. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my stories, some of my clients' stories, and I would like to know if you could relate, if you agree with some of this. I would love your feedback. So let's dive in. Number one, and this is, I would say, especially the therapy world is less this way. So this is definitely more, I would say, more of the coaching and self-help world. The first mistake is focusing on the external and being so focused on external results. If you are a coach and you've been doing this, it's not your fault because you've likely been trained to do this. I know that when I was trained at 21 years old by Tony Robbins himself, that's what I was trained to do too. I mean, if you think about it, the self-help industry, last time I looked it up, I think it was like almost a billion-dollar industry. It is an externally based industry. So you might be thinking, Mandy, you disagree with a $15 billion base industry? Yeah, I do. I do. Call me crazy, call me insane. Yeah, I've been in this industry. So I've been a coach for 25 years. People have called me a coach. I don't identify with that title and that word anymore because it's contaminated. I don't agree with so many things that coaches do now that it feels out of integrity to identify myself as a coach now. So I don't tell people I'm a coach. I let people know who I like to work with and what my services are, but it doesn't resonate anymore. And the reason why are these three reasons. And one of them is this obsession with the external. And let me share with you more about that. You might be thinking, okay, Mandy, I was curious about what you're going to say, but now I don't know. Hear me out. And you can totally debate me. You can put it in the comments, be nice. But you can put it in the comments what your thoughts are. Here's the thing. Many people hire a coach because of health, wealth, and relationships. Those are the big three, right? And it's really not health. It's weight. Let's be honest. It's not health. They don't just want to have good blood results. They want weight loss. So it's weight and it's money, money, money. And then it's usually passion in their relationship and marriage. And it's a very image-based culture. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not all bad. It's not all negative because we are human beings and we are in this very weird culture where we relate to each other by how we look and how we dress. Like I showered and I did my hair. I didn't, and I put on some makeup and I put these earrings on, right? It's like I'm playing this game too. I didn't just put on this camera and in my PJs and, I wanted to look good on this camera for you right now. So we're all playing this game. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Here's what I mean by that it's a mistake. I know for myself and I know for many of my clients, they pay for coaching, let's say, because they want to, let's use the weight loss example or the money example. They both work. A client, Joe. Joe wants to make more money and Bob wants to lose weight. So we got Joe and Bob. Joe wants to make more money. Bob wants to lose weight. Joe and Bob both hire coaches to help them. Nothing wrong with that. So most coaches, I know this is what I was trained to do, and this is what I did pretty much my first 10 years of coaching is, okay, Joe and Bob, you want to make more money? You want to lose weight? Let's focus on this result. Why do you want this? Why? Tell me why, right? Let's why. Like you've heard, you gotta know your why. And then let's take action. Come on, Joe. Come on, Bob. Let's take action. Massive action. Let's go. Like, and that's what I got paid for, right? It didn't work. It did not work. Now you might be like, wait a minute, Mandy. it worked for me, or it worked for my cousin Rebecca, or you might have heard like a testimonial. So there's what I call lottery winner numbers, where there's this teeny tiny percentage of people that it might appear that it worked for, and it's because of rare circumstances or because they were doing other work that was more internal work and they were ready for it, and it was like the perfect storm. So there's many different factors, but the majority of people, that model of just focusing on, I want to lose weight, and why do I want it? Let's go, pain if I don't change, pleasure if I do, and let's just take action. I'm here to tell you, because I have done the calls, thousands of calls, and I've done the work for myself, because I have wanted the goals, I've wanted the money, I've wanted the weight loss, I've wanted the relationship, and it didn't work. You know why? Here, I'll tell you why. It didn't work because change happens not on the external, it happens internally. And that's why the whole foundation of the entire self-help industry and the entire coaching industry is contaminated, and why coaches have a bad rep, and why there's very little respect and reverence for coaches, is because of the foundation of our training has been to focus on the external versus going inside. That's what we've been trained. So I'll give you this great metaphor. I got I have very thick hair, very thick hair. If I don't brush my hair and I don't shower and I just can let my hair, it could be like a big troll doll, or I can rat it up and it could look like 80s rock star hair, And so let's say I grab a brush, okay, focusing on the externals. Let's say my hair is like a big 80s rock star fro, and I grab a brush and I brush the mirror. I'm like, why isn't my hair changing? I want my hair to be down and slick and be like Gwyneth Paltrow and just be more, not 80s rock star. But I'm brushing the mirror. I'm like, come on, hair. And I'm expecting my hair to change. That is why over 90%, and I'm being nice, it's probably even more than that. At least over 90% of what coaches are currently doing and being taught does not work. I know, because this is what I did, because it's what I was taught. And I was so frustrated. I called it marmota madness. Marmota madness. You know what a marmota is? Marmota is Spanish for groundhog. It was like the same conversation with clients over and over again. It was like, oh, Joe's experiencing the same problem. Bob's experiencing the same issue. Rebecca, Sarah, Joanne, all my clients, it was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I signed up to be a coach because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make an impact. But then here I am in my own life and I'm struggling. Can you relate? Come on, you can relate, right? I mean, is it refreshing to have another peer, be honest with you? Isn't it weird to be in a profession where we're getting paid to help people have their dreams come true and anything's possible, and then we're like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? It's like, oh man, this is weird. It's a weird game. So I realized, okay, this ain't working for Joe and Bob and Joanne and Rebecca. This ain't working. I'm looking at all my clients. I remember I did, and I'm not a big fan of Excel. I'm not one of those like data people, but my heart had to know the truth. And I did an Excel spreadsheet and I looked at all my clients and I was like, this is not working. And I am very enthusiastic about the model. In fact, I got promoted to being a mentor coach at 22. Like I was top dog at a young age, and it felt weird. It felt weird to be promoted. It felt weird that my clients kept enrolling with me and I didn't know why, because we weren't getting results. I'm like, I don't know why they're staying with me. And I know more now why. Because it really wasn't about the results, which I'm going to get into. And I realized that model doesn't work. And instead, there's a different model, which I'm going to do another video on, okay? My next video is going to be on, okay, what do we do instead? Instead of these three big mistakes, what's the replacement? So we need to focus on the internal, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I promise I'm going to do another video that's going to be about, okay, what do we do instead? But that's number one, is the obsession with the results, the obsession with the external. It doesn't work. Can we all agree? We've been there, done that. We've tried it. Are you tired? I know I've been tired. Okay, that's number one. Okay. Number two, and this one's tricky. Okay, this one's tricky, and this one might trigger you. I'm going to warn you. It's really requires a lot of discernment. Giving your advice and opinion. Dun, dun, dun. I still do it. I do. Still today. But I'm very careful and mindful about it. But and I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, I gave my opinion and advice all the time. So there's actually a beautiful acronym that I learned from the founder, the creator of IFS, Richard Schwartz. I hope I'm saying his name right, where he came up with an acronym. I want to give him credit. WAIT. Why am I talking? Isn't that such a good acronym? WAIT. Why am I talking? That is a good acronym for all of us in the people profession. I think that's a good acronym for human beings, period. Don't you wish all human beings use that acronym? Why am I talking? Is it just to hear myself talk? Or do I have a purpose for this? Advice and opinions. One of my therapists, he said one time, I love this quote. This is a Rick Boyes quote. He said, opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. When we are wearing the hat of a coach or a therapist or healer or an astrologer or when someone is paying you for your expertise, they are already in a position of vulnerability. They are already giving you a certain level of trust. Now, everybody's different with how much. Some people give you a lot of trust right away, and some people are going to be a little bit more skeptical depending on their personality and their background. Here's why this is a mistake, to not be very mindful and very careful about giving your advice and opinion. I find the mistake is not necessarily your advice or opinion. The mistake is giving it too soon and too often. It's going to let that sink in. It's too soon and too often. If I were to listen to, and this would be painful, and I'm glad I don't have access to any recordings. If I were to listen to recordings of myself coaching 25 years ago, or even 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, I know I was likely giving advice and opinions too soon and too often. And there's a better way. There's a much better way that is so much more powerful. Ooh, is it so much more powerful? Which I told you, I'm going to do another video on. What is the better way? Instead of doing these mistakes, what's the better way? I have a framework I'm excited to share with you. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that. Okay, so what's the third mistake? Because I will share with you the reason why that's dangerous. It robs our client. Think about yourself. It robs your client of being seen, heard, and understood. Have you ever been in pain and someone gave you advice too soon and you're like, you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. Hey, have you read this book? And you're like, oh man. Like, you just felt like they just wanted you to go away. Like, just read this book. Just do this. Have you tried that? It's like, oh, people want to be seen, heard, and understood. And when advice and opinion is given too soon, it doesn't feel good and it's not helpful. So that's where it's a mistake. And this is where it's an art. This is where it's an art. And this is where it really is about trusting your own heart, your own intuition, which I'm going to talk more about how to access that and how to trust that. The third one, and you might think that this never happens, but does this happen? And if this third one has happened to you and you feel comfortable sharing it in the comments, please do, because I think raising awareness is really helpful. I know it's happened to me, and actually my therapist, who is a very successful therapist, hired a very well-known therapist. This just happened to my therapist just recently. So if you think this doesn't happen, this happens. And the third one is judging and shaming our clients. And you might be thinking, like I said, what? Come on, come on. No, this just happened. This has happened to me several times. I'm curious if it's happened to you. I know I've had several clients. One of the things I ask my clients in their questionnaire, and by the way, this is a really good question to put in your questionnaire, is, if you're a coach, asking them, have you worked with a coach before? If you're a therapist or healer, have you worked with a service professional before? If so, please share your experience. Because if someone has worked with someone before who's been shamed, it's how important is that for you to know about, right? I know for myself, I actually had a coach I was working with. I told her about a man that I was dating and what I said and what I did on the date. And she told me, quote, "You shouldn't have said that." What am I going to be, Michael J. Fox, and go back in time? Like, she shamed me. They're already doing it themselves. I joke with my clients that, if shame worked, if guilt and shame worked, then I'd be out of a job. Think about it. If guilt and shame were effective tools, like for transformation and growth, like take a moment and really contemplate this. If guilt and shame ignited us and made us more motivated and productive, because that's what we've been hypnotized and fooled into believing, so not true. If it actually worked, then we all have this internal bully, meanie. I know I've worked really hard with my therapist on my bully inside my head. If that worked, then we wouldn't need to hire people to help us because we already have that inside of us. And most of us have family members who already do that naturally, right? So we wouldn't need to hire coaches and therapists. And I invite you to pay attention to the next interview that you listen to of someone really great, someone who accomplished something just unbelievable, whether it was in sports or in an area of life that you really look up to them, or, watch a YouTube video of someone in history that you really admire and they were interviewed. And I bet you cannot find an interview of anyone in history that ever said anything remotely to the effect of, well, I really hated myself and then I accomplished great things. Well, I really beat myself up, so then I took the action. It doesn't work. Self-loathing and shame and guilt and feeling awful about ourselves, it doesn't work. Yet there are still therapists and coaches and healers that use this. And it needs to stop. It needs to stop because it's causing damage. So those are the three biggest mistakes. And I believe having a conversation, there's Whiskey. You guys see Whiskey? You go out. Oh, look at, there she is. She says hi. She says hi. She says, you guys, don't shame people. Be like Whiskey. Be like Whiskey and just love everybody. She loves everybody. I would not know any of my neighbors without Whiskey. So I think it's time to take Whiskey for a walk. I'll end on that note, and I will see you on the next video where I will share with you, what do we do instead? And what do we do instead? And it's the Strawberry Shift framework. I'm so excited to share it with you. Take care.